On the Golf Podcast today, we are going to help you to satellite into the DraftKings Millionaire Maker event. Hey everybody, and welcome to dailyfantasylobby.com. We've got the second of our two-part satellite special. If you tuned in last week, you'll have known that we're trying to help our dailyfantasylobby.com members into satelliting into the DraftKings Millionaire Maker event, which is next week. It coincides with the Masters. It's the real main event. So this week we're going to be looking at the Shell Houston Open. I'm Christy. I'm here with David, who is the owner and CEO of dailyfantasylobby.com.
Thanks for having me again, Christy.
Nice long intro. And first of all, we're going to talk about the course this week. We're in Houston. David, being our resident golf expert, is going to enlighten us.
Okay, thanks, Christy. I'll be brief. The course this week's a 7,400-yard golf course designed by Rhys Jones, very much in the style and setup of Augusta. This is obviously the week before the Masters, and in order to attract a strong field, the organisers traditionally set the course up with shaved banks, very fast greens, wide fairways, so trying to get that feel of pre-Augusta warm-up. And I think it works well. They attract generally a very strong field.
Nice. Well, and last week, of course, we got completely hampered by the weather in the Valero Open. Do you predict similar? I say predict. I mean, based on the research that you've done, are we going to have wild weather?
We've not got wild weather. I think we've got, we're seeing a bit of wind this week, but what we're seeing it spread across the day in an even fashion. Last week we saw a huge disparity in the weather on the morning of the Thursday, and it kind of blew the field away, really. And we saw the winner and the top five all coming from the back end of the field. So we won't see that disparity this week. I'm not so concerned about looking at morning or afternoon tee-off times. We're just going to look at the field from a general perspective.
Sure. Okay, now what we're going to attempt this week is for David to give us his team of 6 as if he were entering the event on DraftKings.com. So in order to do so, we're going to kind of hone our team into certain tiers. So we've got our elite level guys, we've got our big guns, we've got our steady eddies, and we've got our long shots. We're going to take one each of those, and then we're going to have 2 wild cards, and that will hopefully take us up to our 50k salary cap, or there or thereabouts. So David, take it away. First of all, the elite guys, the over 10k fees.
Well, that shouldn't be too difficult. There are only 5,
yeah.
And Henrik Stenson has actually pulled out today, citing flu, so he won't be here this week, and he's a slight doubt for next week at the Masters, although I do think we will see him there. So of the 4 that remain, we're looking at Jordan Spieth, Jimmy Walker, Pat Reed, and Matt Kuchar. I'm going to tend to go with Matt Kuchar here. He came runner-up last year.
Okay.
He blew it a little bit, to be honest, but again, a very steady Eddie. He's had a number of top 10s this season. I'm not completely convinced that Jimmy Walker won't be hungover slightly from last week's very well won tournament. And Jordan Spieth, I'm not really sure why he's playing this week. I know he was negative on him last week. Yes, I know he came second. I just felt he was expensive. I feel this isn't a course that particularly suits him, although he obviously has a class act. I don't know why he needs to put another week behind him before the Masters. He may just be young enough and fit enough that it doesn't matter. And Patrick Reed is a great player. I think next week will be his week. I'm not so sure he's that bothered about this week. And I think actually when I make a lot of my picks here, I struggle sometimes to believe that they're all that bothered about the Shell Houston Open.
Okay, so motivation is a deciding factor in your selections.
I'm just a little bit concerned. I suppose if they really weren't bothered, they wouldn't be here at all.
Of course.
But are they here just to play around, just to sort of have a feel of it, just to acclimatise? I'm not sure.
You can't speak for them, but I mean, this is the beauty of daily fantasy sports. You'll never know. All you can do is make your predictions based on the research that you've done, based on a lot of the time your hunch and historical performance. So we've got Matt Kuchar as our elite pick, and then a big gun, which we consider someone in the 8,000 to 10,000 pay grade.
I'm actually going to go with last year's winner.
Okay.
Matt Jones, an Australian.
Yeah.
The Australians have typically done quite nicely around here. Adam Scott has won round the course before. Stuart Appleby, I think, was in contention one year and faded away at the end. Matt Jones, so he won at 8,700 in DraftKings.
It's a nice price, isn't it?
It's a nice price, and actually with Matt Jones as well, there's a factor that I quite like. This is your last chance to get into the Masters if you win the tournament. And Matt currently, I think he's about 63rd in the world. He's not in the Masters, but if he wins this week, he'll get the invitation and he goes to Augusta. Look, I'm not saying he's winning the tournament, but I think at 87, let's stick him in.
It's tough, isn't it? Because when you've got this boom or bust sort of scenario, where he really, you know, finishing 10th is nowhere for him. He needs to really go top 3, ideally first. In which case, you know, it's risky because you're potentially having a non-scorer in your team.
And are you concerned that he may just be so attacking that he over-attacks,
go big or go home,
you know, ends up sort of missing the cut?
Absolutely.
No. Okay, look, this is his last chance to get into the Masters, but I think he'd be very happy with another solid top 10. He's not at that stage of his career where he can forego strong performances and just put money in the bank. I think this is maybe an opportunity to put some money in the bank against a strongish field who I'm not convinced are all trying as hard as they could be.
All right, well, in 5 words, David, explain to me, Matt Jones, why have you picked him?
Last year's winner goes well.
Wow, grammatically impeccable. Last year's winner goes well. At least you said goes well, not goes good.
Goes good. goes goodly.
Okay, so now we're going to the steady eddies, the 6k to 8k sort of price point. Who have we gone for here?
We've actually gone for SHAWN STEFANI.
Okay, let me see if I can pull Sean up on the screen. Carry on.
Perhaps best known for a hole-in-one at, I'm going to guess, the US Open. I think in the last 3 or 4 years it felt like that. Probably the wrong tournament. I think he pulled it left. It was a 4-iron. It bounced about 30 yards off a hill, rolled round in a circle and went in. I like SHAWN STEFANI, and there's a story behind him.
Okay.
He was injured. I think he was injured 2 years ago. So last year he relied on a sponsor's exemption. He had 2 sponsors exemptions, and he required, I think it was about $70,000 or $80,000. And one of them came here, and I finished very well. I think he got about $250,000 actually.
MBN,
and he got his card back. And I think he is mentioned in some press releases that I've read this week that he feels like he owes the tournament something.
Yeah.
That he feels, you know, he needs to give something back. So he's not a guy. Look, this guy, I know he's trying this week. I think that's what I'm saying here. We're not sure about everyone. This guy, he's definitely trying. He hits it a long way. He's got a lot of criteria that we like for this golf course. Let's stick him in.
All right. Well, what I love about that is that the motivation for performance. Now, you and I know that he doesn't owe this event anything, but it doesn't matter if that's what it takes to get yourself going, to get yourself performing. If you need to feel in order to get into the zone that you've got something to prove or you owe something, then that is a perfectly valid reason. That's perfectly good motivation. So 5 words. Let's hear it. SHAWN STEFANI.
SHAWN STEFANI, stroke saving genius.
Genius, no less. Genius. He's gone big there.
More of a genius than me that couldn't think of a word beginning with S.
I like that you used 40% of your words in repeating the guy's name as well. Okay, so we're going to go for our long shots, the guys that are sub 6,000, the sort of guys that you need 1 or 2 of in your roster in order to facilitate the selection of the big guns.
Okay. Charlie Beljan.
Charlie Belgian. Now I'm having a hard time finding him.
4,000. Keep going down. 4,700 on DraftKings. I mean, they're actually almost for free.
That is a gimme. Here he is. Hello, Charlie. And we've put him in. And with good reason. Look at that FPPG. That is minuscule.
He bombs it. Charlie bombs it.
All right.
Charlie hits it. He's long. He's languid. He's a big old boy. And he just hits it 10 miles. So I love Charlie Belgian for this course. It is a bit of a boomer bust pick, but 4,700. I'm happy to be with him. Are you going to ask me in 5 words what I think of Charlie Belgian?
I am, and you're going to repeat his name.
Charlie Belgian booms, busts, always.
Okay.
Not the best. Not the best.
Charlie Belgian, big or home?
Big or home. Most likely.
Charlie and Matt, I noticed that you've really picked 2 guys who you think will be hyper aggressive this week? You're going for it.
You know, Charlie BELJAN, he looks at all the courses all year and he thinks, you know, where can I do well? You know, I think he probably identifies this course, a course where he does well. Let's hit it 350 off the tee. It'll be in the thin rough. You know, flip it onto the green, have a couple of putts. I think that's where we're talking here. It's not Harbour Town where you've got to hit the ball in a controlled sort of fashion around it. That's just, you know, let's go for it, Charlie. You know, he'd love to get into Augusta. In fact, if he got into Augusta,
would you pick him? Would you pick him?
No, but I think about it.
Okay, all right. Okay, so now we've got 2 wild cards. We've used up. Well, we've actually got 17.5k remaining. So we've got 2 picks left, potentially averaging just under 9k. So who are you going to have as your wild cards?
I'm going to throw in Rickie Fowler.
Okay, well, he's hardly a wild card, is he?
Hardly a wild card, but we've got the cash to spend, so let's go spend.
All right.
You'll find him at 9,900.
Here he is. I can see him
There he is
right
there.
here.
There he is there,
Rickie Fowler. 5 words.
Oh, lovely Rickie. Birdie this.
Okay. Rickie plays better without pouting.
Rickie plays great before majors. That's what
Okay.
I think. That's what I think.
Wonderful.
Because in the last 4 majors, he finished in the tournaments before majors last year. He finished, I can't read my own handwriting, 6th, 13th, 8th, and 8th.
It's impressive.
That's strong numbers.
That's higher than I've ever finished.
That's someone who's there for a reason.
Yeah.
So I like him.
All right.
I like him for that point of view, and he's playing well, and he's got all the form and everything else, and we'll stick him in there. So I think that leaves us with 7,600. So let's go down the board there and pick out Justin Thomas.
Justin Thomas. Here we are at 71.
71.
So we've got a few bucks left in the bank. 5 words, please, on Justin Thomas.
Great young kid. Will win.
Will win. Wonderful. Okay, we're going to wrap it up there. We want to keep this one sort of to the point. Hopefully you're going to get something from it. And as always, please tweet us at SuperLobby, at KC151, at SFL Punter. Feel free to experiment with the website, give us some feedback, anything that in any way that you want to get in touch, we're happy to hear from you. As always, it's an absolute pleasure for me to be presenting these podcasts. Thank you, David, for coming along.
Thanks, Casey, for having me.
And we're going to wrap it up, so best of luck, everyone. Bye-bye.